Hello, my name is Dieter Loosemore, and I'm joined by my brother Rick Loosemore to do the two loose, because two loose mores, top 100. We're most of the way through now. We're into 30 to 21. We were super excited last time. I'm even more excited this time. These are categorically amazing games that I will fight anybody that says they shouldn't be on this list. Maybe you'd put them in a different place, but treasured and well regarded nonetheless. I think you're going to enjoy a few of my picks, Rick.
Yeah. I guarantee you'll enjoy some of mine.
What have you got? What's your number 30?
No thanks.
No. We do this nicely. It's no thank you.
No, it's no thanks.
Good
with
choice.
An exclamation mark.
Good choice.
My number 30 is no thanks. No thanks is a very simple card game where you have a deck of cards ranging from, I think, 3 to 36. You randomly deal out 8 or something like that. And then the last person to have received a gift is offered a gift of one of these numbers. And it's randomly, I think that's the starting
Is that the first player rule?
Yeah. And then you flip over a card. Say it's 17. That is worth 17 points at the end of the game. The aim of the game is to score as few as possible points. Everyone starts with a hand of chips. I think it's about 10 or something. It varies on the player count. And each one of those is worth a minus point. So you start with minus 10. And so you say, do I want this 17? That's going to put me up to 7. And so you say, no thanks. And you toss in a chip, which means you get to pass to the next person, who then gets the choice. Now you're down to minus 9 points, but they're suddenly offered a 17 with a minus 1 point on it as well. So suddenly it's 16. That's a bit more attractive. It will go around a few times because the genius of this thing is, yes, they're minus points, these chips, but they're also turns to play, because you can't just keep doing this indefinitely, because at some point you're going to run out. So at some point you have to take a card. It's achingly simple. There's a slight tricky rule where you say, right, well, if you had 16, 17, and 18 in a run, you'd actually only score the 16, which means if you have the 16 and the 18, at that point, you're scoring 34 points. So if the 17 does come up, you want it. Is everyone else going to let you have it? Not if you play with my wife. She'd happily fall on her own sword. But, there are irrational people out there as well. And it's just very, very simple, very, very playable. And I think, wow, do you own this game?
Yes, of course.
Every single member of our family owns this game.
Yeah.
That is saying something.
Wow.
My number 30, yes, please. It's no thanks.
I won't comment now.
Okay.
My number 30, I have included because I have played this physically once, and this was your copy, and I went away going, it's okay, it's good, I get it. And in the last month, 2 months, I have played a ton of this digitally. Against no one, because I'm too scared. This is the next in the leader games, asymmetric 4-letter games. This is Root. Subtitle?
A game of might and right. A woodland game of might and right. A game of woodland might and right.
Whatever. Set in a woodland. And all
with might and right.
With might and right. There are different factions that are completely different. Now, Rick's point that he made to me when trying to convince me to play, and I'm sure he'll mention when he talks about it inevitably.
How dare you?
As compared to Vast, is in Vast, both the mechanisms and the goal of each faction is different. In Root, it's a race to 30 points.
Yes.
It's a race to 30 points. So everybody's goal is the same. And so it's just the faction mechanisms and how they play that are different. And my goodness, are they different? At this point, I actually think I prefer the birds. Now, the birds
Okay.
are a programming faction. I don't like programming, but each turn you have to play a card and you put it in one of the 4 action types that they do, and its suit determines where on the board that action is going to take place, like moving, fighting, spawning, whatever it might be. And there are claws which are wild, but if ever one of those actions or all locations within that action cannot be completed, your whole faction busts. This is just the birds. Your whole faction busts, and you have to wipe it all away, and you lose points depending on how many wilds you used, because that was easy. That intrinsic puzzle is wonderful.
And wouldn't that single race be good enough for the whole game?
I believe the cats would be good enough on their own. Just the normal area control, you craft stuff, you play cards, you move around, you fight. They're so basic.
We've played games like that.
So many, and it's great. They're done really well. But then these birds are completely different. And then the Woodland Alliance are completely different again. And then the 4th faction is a raccoon. Just a single raccoon who runs around making friends and then stabbing them and then stealing their stuff and running off again into the woods where no one can follow him. Mental. I've had so much fun. The digital version is exceptional, genuinely.
I hear that, yeah.
The animation, they've brought, again, Carl Ferrin's artwork to life so well. The tutorial system, because that's what's put me off, is that learning curve. But this tutorial system is incredible. And so it just lets you get into the factions to any depth you kind of want to. Undeniably good route.
My number 29 is a series of games that won Spiel des Jahres. I don't think if it hadn't won Spiel, actually Kenneth Spiel, I probably wouldn't have put it in this list, because I'd probably count it as something other. But if the Germans think they're games, then I think they're games. This is Exit. And these are escape room in a box type games. Now, I have to say, I've not played Unlock, and I've not played Escape Room in a Box and any of the other types. I've only played the Exits, and I haven't played loads of those. And I'll be honest, I'm not that big into escape rooms. I know a lot of people are like, hey, you should come do this, it'll be really fun, because you like board games. It's like a big board game. I think it's more like a puzzle book, and that's not really my bag. So I was really surprised how much I enjoyed Exit. Now, they're single use, and by the way, at the moment in Lidl, you can buy them for £10 each. I know, top tip. Who knows when this will go out? Might be too late, but check out the middle of Lidl. They're self-contained, like I say, but they're only a tenner, and so you don't mind, tearing up bits, writing on stuff, and they're really, really inventive. And every time you do one of the clues and you solve one of the things, you suddenly go, oh, of course, that's it. And that's the feeling you want. When I go to an escape room, sometimes I go, oh, I see why you did that, but yeah, I just wasn't thinking that way. In the Exit series, I never feel like they're at fault. It's always because I just didn't get it. And it's a very simple card system. Like I said, rip up its paper, draw and stuff. Have you played any of these?
No, and I would like to, but I have done an escape room, and it felt so crowd dependent.
Yes.
That I would worry that for Exit.
Okay.
But again, as you say, something like, well, you didn't say this, I said this last time with Diplomacy, something like a Christmas or a family gathering or something. It's just an activity to do together, and you're paying for the experience, not the product. Yeah, I'd totally be up for it.
Yeah. Maybe I'll give Mum and Dad one for Christmas for you to take down.
Okay, my 29 is a former top 10. I'm not sure whether to make the bold prediction that it will be in your top 10. This is a game, a 2-player only version of a game we've both kind of ragged on a little bit. So we both have issue with Seven Wonders. Neither of us have issue with Seven Wonders Duel. It is an impeccable implementation. It changes the pick and pass to a table draft, but not just a normal table draft. No, only half of the information is given to begin with. Half the cards are face up, half of them face down, and as you remove cards, because they're layered on top of each other, as you remove ones, you flip the new ones, so then the information,
like in Solitaire.
Very much like that, the information emerges as you go through. So you can do some planning, but you can't do tons of planning. And so you're just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, building these things, either paying for them, and how much they cost is affected by the cards you've already taken, or by the cards your opponent has taken. If you don't have the resources, it costs the number of coins multiplied by the number of that type of resource your opponent has. So it's not just what do I want, but what do I not want my opponent to have? Definitely not. Or it doesn't matter if they have it, I just don't want them to have it yet because I need to do this thing. All the while you're building wonders. Each of you starts with 4, but only 7 of them will be built, and they have one-time special abilities or points at the end, or whatever it might be. They cost more to build. But there's just such an array of mechanisms, and that's just the main bit of the game. There's then military and science, which we both largely disliked in the main game, and they've just stripped it right down. Military is just a tug of war. You can win automatically if you get to the end. I've not seen it. Oh no, you did it to me, I think, the very first time against me.
Sure. Mostly it's like an arms race. It's a threat, and it forces people to then pick up military stuff they don't really want.
Yeah. And in science, it could be an instant win, but again, it's just a threat because you need matching symbols, and you see somebody's got nearly enough, so you go, oh, fine, I will sacrifice this point card to get that science card, just so you can't win that way. So yeah, it's more Cold War-y than straight combative.
Yes.
I've played one of the expansions. It's good. It's fine. I don't want it. I don't need it. People say it's essential. They're I'm not going to say they're lying. They're wrong. I think they're wrong.
They're very wrong.
And it's the same price as the game. Why would you do that to yourself? Is it?
Yeah, often. Yeah.
Gosh, 7 Wonders Duel, sublime.
Okay, my 28. You mentioned ages ago. I've had 2 copies. There's a reprint. It is Camel Up. I have the expansion to this. I have the old Pegasus version. So I have the expansion that it throws extra dice in, a photographer, a longer route, because it can then hold up to 10 players.
Wow.
And it can hold them. And how many games can I hit the table that isn't Codenames, that isn't Chameleon? In fact, Chameleon only takes 8, doesn't it? But like massive games that will take 10 and work. We have, that's how we do a lot of games. When it's not a pandemic, we have lots of people playing them. And it's silly fun, and it's dice rolling, and it really should be more random than it is, but there are odds going on. There's mathematics going on, and you can play that way or you can't, and probably you'll have equal chance of winning. I think probably if you have sat down and worked out, what's the odds of me winning this round or that round, you're probably going to do slightly better. I don't think your enjoyment is going to be different, because it's just silly, crazy, good enough maths, fun game.
My 28 is somewhat more highbrow than your 28. Highbrow. This is high fantasy. This is specific IP that you'd actually enjoy. This is Lord of the Rings, the living card game. Now, this to me is the pinnacle of business structure to get people to buy cards and not make them hate you. Collectible card games have the compulsion of, I buy all the booster packs and I'm annoyed because I didn't get the thing that I wanted, and I feel like I've wasted my money, and I'll probably go do that all again and feel even angrier and eventually just burn out and not want to give you any of my money. Living card games are set, prescribed additions to the game, which they're kind of like expansions, except they're small and they come out on a regular basis. And they typically, I think they've actually entirely done them in a narrative structure. That might not be true. Maybe Marvel Champions isn't a narrative structure. But the base game of Lord of the Rings Living Card Game comes with 3 missions, 3 chapters of a story, and gives you all the cards that you need to play the game. And if you only ever buy that, it's wonderful. You might eventually get a little bored of the repetitive nature of doing the same 3 missions, but then they have hard modes, so you can up the challenge. But what they then expect you to do, and what I would suggest to the degree that you're comfortable with, is to buy some of these packs, and they will add another chapter and a couple of characters, and then more cards to then go away, do the meta stuff, and figure out a deck that works for that character. And it's set in Middle Earth. It's not strictly Lord of the Rings, although they then later came out with those stories. It's wider characters to just explore the world, and the system is great, to the point where I would happily play Arkham Horror, the living card game, because the system is kind of a refined version, even though the Arkham Horror stuff, it's not even that I don't care about it. It kind of repulses me a little bit. I'm not comfortable with that theme particularly. But I love this system so much. Yes, there's a learning curve to it, because it's unlike any, really, I would think, any other kind of game that you've played. But it's so engaging constantly. Even in multiplayer, I played it mostly solo, but even in multiplayer, you're engaged because you can help. You can spend some actions if you've reserved them to help other people and to take down enemies that are attacking them. And it's just a brilliant system. I think it's finished. I don't think it's questionable whether it's in print, but you can still pick it up. And I would suggest it. Lord of the Rings, living card game, my 28.
Yeah, I really, really want to try this one. And normally wouldn't be my sort of bag at all. But okay, my 27 is another one that I prejudged. And I prejudged it partly because the front cover looked stupid, and also because a word in the title made me think of a different game that I didn't want to play, and this is Imperial Settlers. Not Settlers of Catan. Has nothing to do with that. Possibly a bad name because that's what everyone's mind goes to. And for the record, I haven't played Empires of the North, which is the follow-up. I'd really like to. In Imperial Settlers, it's probably one of the early asymmetric games, you'd say. You take on a race, whether the barbarians, the Romans, the Egyptians, or the Japanese. And obviously, and they are fighting over Mesopotamia. Where would these people meet? I don't know. So Persia, perhaps. But they're fighting over this land to be the best empire. The theme is weak-ish. The theme is weak in that it doesn't really feel like they're fighting over the same space. But the theme is good because each one plays like they should play like. Because there is a group deck, a corporate deck of buildings that you build in your empire, and anyone can build these. And then you have a deck that is just for you, Egyptian buildings that build just Egyptian things, which the Romans cannot touch. Well, that's brilliant. That's fun. I like just having my own thing that no one else can do. And sometimes you need to build a common building to then build another building, and you might knock that down. And there's some rules that go in with that. But even just the idea of, wait, I've just got an entirely separate deck that you can't touch. That's incredible. That was just something I'd never seen before. It worked particularly well at 2, so we really enjoyed that. And it's an engine builder. It's a point scorer. It's quite simple to learn, but then the way the cards chain with one another, there's just so much thinky fun, and not at all like the cover looks. And I'm not normally one that complains about, hey, cartoony art makes you think it's not a deep game, because I like Kyle Ferrin, we've talked about a lot. Those games are rich, and yet it's got that cartoony feel. I did think in Imperial Settlers, actually, that the front cover didn't look like the meaty game that was underneath. So yeah, this is Imperial Settlers. I really, really want to try Empires of the North. My number 27.
My number 27, you mentioned a long time ago as one of the types of Uwe Rosenberg games. This is the polyomino style. I like 2 players, of course. This is Patchwork. It's just so simple and just so pure. I've tried other polyomino games since, Bear and Park and such things, and just they just don't sit as well with me for some reason. This one just works. Whether it's the economy is just interesting, that it's buttons theme. Maybe it's because I taught a mum who doesn't really care for thinky games, and she liked it because it was about making a patchwork quilt, and you just go, that's nice. And yeah, there's a little bit of puzzling it out. But I think, and you mentioned this for another game, and I can't remember what it was, but it's the turn order style in
the Catala.
Yes, I can't remember
King
what
Domino.
the game was. King Domino. Was it?
Yeah, probably.
Don't remember. But when you gain a piece, it costs potentially buttons, and it also costs time.
Was it Thebes?
Thebes, there you go. And you move forward that many number of spaces, and the person whose turn it is the person who's behind. And so you could go get the piece that you need, but then be sat there whilst the other person buys a little one for one time and the next one for two time. And it takes them a long time to catch up. And they've added actually more. And every so often there are thresholds around the board which do income, and on some of the tiles, typically the more expensive ones, there are printed buttons which mean every income you gain those buttons. And so there's that constant balance of, am I going for just filling my board, or am I wanting to set myself up slowly to have a good engine of income so that I can be picky about the ones that I get, so that I actually in the end do it faster. And it's just a lovely balance. I recently got New York Zoo, actually in an attempt to overthrow Patchwork. It's the same designer, but it just adds a little bit extra, and it's got lovely animal figures. So, because it's weird, I almost want to think of Patchwork less than I do, because there's nothing to it. It's so simple. I like deep, interesting games, but it's just so light and lovely. So I'll play it over the holidays and see how I feel about it. But Patchwork is just good.
I cannot believe this is this high. If you'd asked me before we started this, will Patchwork be in your top 100? I'd say no, don't be ridiculous. 27.
I think it's been as high as 11.
Wow. I mean, I like it, but I think it's fine. This is a big call. There you go.
I just like it.
Okay, my number 26. You have not played.
Okay.
Pandemic Legacy Season 2. Season 2. I haven't played Season 0. Don't look for that on my list. I do like Pandemic. I've covered it a lot more than Deet has. I like the Legacy system. And Pandemic Legacy Season 2 almost turned the whole system on its head. In Pandemic Legacy Season 1, if you know that, they take base Pandemic and then break it slowly. Pandemic Legacy Season 2, they start broken and then you have to build it up. You basically have control of the Atlantic Ocean and the ports around it. And then you have to explore other parts of the world. And then, if you've not played Pandemic, basically you're trying to fix the world from many diseases. Very topical right now. Pandemic Legacy takes that idea and then gives you a new sort of rule set each month. And it's really hard to trying so hard to talk about it without giving any spoilers away, because I know there will be people who actually go, I don't want to know. What can I say at this point? It's really good. It's really good. It's really good. I really liked it. Okay, this is all I say at this point, and then we'll move on. Play Season 1 first.
Sure.
Then play Season 2. And I don't know, I can't think of another game in which the story has grabbed me anywhere near as much as Pandemic Legacies Season 1 and 2. It's still not brilliant. It's not like, reading Tolkien. It's not great literature, but in both of those games, there was a moment where you go, oh, stab to the heart. You've absolutely, because it does such clever things. You name your characters, they develop scars, they develop relationships. You build a relationship with them, and then when things happen that mean that It's painful. It's painful. These are good games. Play season 1 first, then play season 2.
My desire is to play season 0 and neither 1 nor 2. My number 26. Let's get out of that as quick as possible. We've mentioned, but not talked about yet. I talked about Sonar last time as being the small, quiet 2-player cat and mouse versus the loud, rambunctious 6 to 8 player real-time Captain Sonar. Which this is the highest game by about 50 places that I've only played once. And this is your kind of diplomacy argument. I never want to play it again, but I will happily have never played it again and think so well of this game because of the pure exhilaration of that one experience. This would be a game in an ideal world that I feel like I would play once a year. It's that kind of, I want to have one event where I do this crazy thing where we're all shouting at each other constantly, having to quickly draw stuff within the lines so that your ship doesn't break, showing the other team, and then going, wait, you planted a mine? Where did you plant the mine? Where do you think they are? Talking to, well, it was my mum when we played, the radio engineer, silently just working away, doing, I think I know where they are. Oh, do you? Quick, everybody stop. I'm going to detonate a mine. It's in this space. So good. Captain Sonar 26.
So my 25, I'm going to talk about a little bit now and a little bit later. This is Puerto Rico. This is the granddaddy of the follow-on games, if you like. Everyone has a turn to dictate what action is going to happen this turn.
It's an interesting way of phrasing it.
And there are variations within that. So there might be games that do, but that person then gets 2 of those goes, or everyone else gets to decide a subsidiary action, or But this is the one that made that up, and it's quite old now. And I think this was formerly BGG number 1 for many years, and it production-wise, it's definitely showing its age, but it's a very solid game. Lots of very familiar Euro tropes in terms of resource management and sales and things like that. We've never owned this on an aesthetic reason, not to do with the way it looks actually, but because it's a historical game about a time of colonialism and a time when people were being exploited, and I think that comes through. And I want to say that here because I think well, you can see it's my 25. It deserves lots and lots of praise. It's a very solid and very important game in the history of gaming, and it has. You can either deal with the historical thing or you take umbrage with it, and I'd have sympathy with you either way. I always have to play it, but we're not going to own this one. But it is fantastic. 25 Puerto Rico.
Okay. You've spoiled your later choice, but that's okay. Okay, my 25 has a caveat. In fact, 3 of the next 3 have caveats. So my 25 is Star Realms. Now, you put this much lower. Wait, you put this much lower, and as of 3 months ago, this was around 50-60 for me. I love this game. I think it was the first game I bought myself.
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly. Certainly the first 2-player only game we bought. And I just loved it. It's super simple deck building. It's just a one-on-one, trying to knock down life points and things, as Rick talked about a few videos ago. And then in a trade over the summer, I think it was, I got Star Realms Frontiers, which is a standalone expansion. So you can mix them together, or it's
Yeah.
just a singular box that you can use on its own. Now, firstly, it's all new cards. So it's interesting for me exploring what cards are in there just to mix up the base game slightly, but it also comes with other modes of play. So it's suddenly elevated this base simple game that you can kind of play out and then you're done into a wide range of experiences. It comes with a solo mode, it comes with teams mode, it comes with kind of a multiplayer dogfight system, and it's I've only tried a few of those things, but the solo is where I'm at. Is so good, and some of them are a fake opponent, and you deal cards for them and whatnot. But some of them aren't. Some of them are just a tentacled creature, and the cards that it gains become its tentacles, and you have to defeat all of those. And so it just adds narrative to a largely themeless game. It adds interest into how you use each faction. And at the end of the day, I can just sit and play basic Star Realms and have a wonderful time doing deck building and fighting somebody for no good reason. So Star Realms, but specifically because of Frontiers, puts it up to my 25.
My 24 is Century Spice Road, or Century Golem Edition. They're basically exactly the same game, but one's got trading in the Middle East theme, and the other one is about monsters. I prefer the theme of one and the production of the other, because the jewels in the Golem Edition and the tray is very nice. This is a very simple engine builder, really. You start with a deck of cards, and they enable you to... Let's be honest, at this point, I slammed Century's theming when we talked about Eastern Wonders. I'm going to do it again. You get 4 cubes of different color. Deep will tell you they're distinct spices. He is wrong. They are just 4. And do you know what, Golem? I don't think even tries to name them. They're just like better color rubies, aren't they? They're nice. But yeah, you get 1 color. Is yellow the base color?
Yeah.
Then green, then red, then brown. Is that right?
Red, then green, then brown.
Whatever. See, nonsense theming, but a joy to play, because you play this card and you go, okay, I get 2 yellow cards, and then I'm going to play this card, which turns that into a green card, and then I'm going to spend this money because actually I want to get that card that does that better, and you enable your hand to get better and better. But when you play these cards out, they don't come back until you take a turn to take them back. And so it's about creating a hand of cards that is the most efficient it can be before you're forced to pick up again. And it's a race. It's a race to, is it points or coins? Or both?
A number of contract cards fulfilled.
That's right, yeah. And those contract cards come with points and with coins on some.
Correct, yeah. I've
played this 2 or 3 times, and it's grown on me every time. Sure. I really do enjoy this. It's an engine builder, which I think if you told anyone you introduced it to might be a little bit scared. What it is very playable game. And I think it should be commended for being as deep and as accessible as it is. This is 24 Century Spice Road.
Okay, I'll hold off my comments for now. My number 24 has a caveat. This is the second game for me to appear from the West Kingdom trilogy, but it is the 3rd game in the West Kingdom trilogy. This is Viscounts of the West Kingdom. My caveat is I have only played this solo, and it is still my 24. I think of the trilogy and of pretty much any game that I've played that has a solo implementation where you're against a fake opponent specifically. This is the smoothest system I have ever come across. Wow. Ever. Cool. It is so clean. It's so good. The amount of thinking I have to do for them is next to nothing. And yet I feel like there's someone to contend with. Their actions aren't so random and impossible that I feel undone by them. Like, oh, what was the point? Or they're so mindless that they've put themselves in situations they can't complete, so I run away with it. They're balanced, and they give options on these cards. So you just run through the card top to bottom, and all of the resolutions are super simple. So you don't need to think about it. I spend 20 seconds maximum, and that's when I sit there going, wow, okay, what do I do now? That's the amount of time I have to spend on my opponent, and I'm back thinking about my game. I love the moving around the board, rondel action system. I like that there's an outer ring and an inner ring to do different types of actions. I like that different cards can be used in multiple ways. And when you gain them or dismiss them to gain their one-time effect, you gain a bonus. There's just so much comborific stuff. And one of the best design, I assume it's a mechanism. I don't know what a name for it is, but your board starts with stuff on, and as the game goes on, you perform actions with take stuff off your board and put them somewhere else, so that gives you a bonus. But now what you've revealed is an ongoing thing. So good. We'll talk about this at least 3 more times, that mechanism. I love it. I cannot wait. I'm going to force our dad to play, honestly.
Wow.
At Christmas.
This is super heavy, you know.
It's not. It really is not. I promise you, the graphic design is impeccable. It lightens so much of that load. He's played things this heavy. He'll be fine. He won't enjoy it, but I will. I cannot wait to play it with people when it's allowed. Because then there's other things that happen and other things that matter about your opponents. So it's not just you waiting for your turn. It matters what your opponents do. Oh, I cannot wait to see this go higher on my list. This is Viscounts of the West Kingdom, my current 24.
Yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to playing this one. My 23 was last year's Spiel des Jahres, just one.
You're such a hipster.
Why?
No, whatever the word is, groupie? No. You're just following what the popular trend is.
Sheeple.
Yep. That's what you are.
Yeah. But I think, do you know what? I think the reason for that is because Spiel, as we know, has over the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years skewed towards the party end, and I just play more party games than you do. So I think that has something to do with it. But just one, you mentioned it earlier, so you can't have a go to me too much.
My favorite party game.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And I got told about it, and I got told about it when I won the Spiel, and I thought, well, that's not going to work. That's a ridiculous idea. Where's the scoring system? And you're cooperative, and this sounds awful. It is really, really fun. Really fun. One person shows the rest of the group a word. They all have to give a just one word clue. And if they match anyone else, so the word is, I don't know, bogey, and 2 people write green, one person writes phlegm, then the greens get should have picked a better word. The greens get wiped out, get blown away.
I'd have written nose.
I know,
not phlegm.
But then the person who's got the word in front of them, all they have to go on is phlegm, and they're like, is the answer nose? No, it isn't. It's bogey. I don't think bogey's in the deck. Anyway, this is just a hoot, an absolute hoot. There is a scoring system. I have paid attention to it. It doesn't really matter. It's just mainly there to hit you around the head and tell you how stupid you are at the end of the game. It's lots of fun. It's just one. 23.
My number 23 has a caveat. So my number 23 is Glenmore 2 Chronicles.
Ooh, another one I want to play.
It is fantastic. Now, my caveat is I have played Glenmore 2. I have not touched a single Chronicle. So again, I can only imagine this game going up for me. The core gameplay is exceptional design. Again, your action selection works in a patchwork and type thing. Whoever's at the back gets to go. But again, it's a rondel like Viscounts, and you move your piece as far around this thing as you like to claim a tile. The board, the ring is populated by tiles, and then you add that tile if you can afford it, because some of them cost resources that you've had to have produced and all the typical Euro stuff, into your area, your fiefdom, whatever the word is, and you
Scottish
have
house.
Yes, you have your Scotsman, and you get to add more Scotsmen, or you get to have landmarks like Loch Ness, or I was going to say Inverness Castle. I'm not sure that's a place, but famous places in Scotland. And you get to add them, and they have special powers. Cool, that's a great system. On top of that, there's a map with all the different clans of historical Scotland, and you can go travel around the map, gaining influence with them to get one-time bonuses, end-game scoring, ongoing bonuses, the typical Euro stuff. That's a great system and is intertwined really well. On top of that, and there is a beautiful scoring system that is entirely comparative. It does not matter how well or not well you do at any of the scoring criteria. It matters how you did as compared to the person who has done the worst. So one of the scoring mechanisms is producing whiskey. So I've produced 8 barrels of whiskey. You've produced 5. Dad's produced 3.
Because he drank too much of it.
It is. Your score in relation to mine does not matter. We're both only comparing to Dad.
Him.
And so because you're 2 more than him, you get 2 points. But because I'm 5 more than him, I can't remember. It's more than that. So it's really good. But there's like 4 different scoring things. So you can only really go after 2 of them and do well at them. And then at the end, there's an additional scoring thing about you compare your fiefdom size against the person with the least amount of tiles in theirs, and you get minus points for every one bigger yours is. So there's no point doing tiny turns and getting all the tiles you can, because you're going to end up with probably a minus score, because you're going to lose so much at the end. You want to keep your whole engine, because it is so tight and compact, and only spread out when you have to get the things that you need to do the rest of the stuff. Oh man, it is such a puzzle. It is, again, this is a heavy-ish game as far as our parents are concerned. And even Mum got to the end and went, I didn't hate that. And she's not a Eurogamer in the slightest. Like just one and no thanks are like her favorite games. And my dad was like, oh, that's a really clever game. And everyone I've shown this to is just like, oh, that's good. That's really good. You will love this. You will love it.
I want it a lot. Well, my 22 is one I referenced earlier when we talked about Puerto Rico, because we go zooming in to the city of San Juan, which is the card version of Puerto Rico. Again, it has that follow-on mechanic. Deep talked about it earlier in the series, and the constant changing market when you produce goods and you're like, I don't want to sell that yet because I know I can score more money for it. And there's just honestly, it's the most deep, crunchy Euro I've ever played with a deck of cards.
Sure.
And nothing else. Well, like I said, just these little scoring, shifting market tiles. Because there's nothing else in there, is there?
Nope.
Wow. It is incredibly well designed. It is very, very neat. And it works at 2-player, 3-player, 4-player. It is compulsive. It is short, and you can play it again and you feel like I've played a full flipping Euro game. It is so good. If you've played Puerto Rico, play San Juan. If you haven't played Puerto Rico, play San Juan. It is exceptional. It didn't stay in our collection for the same issues I had with Puerto Rico. There is a historical theme that you may not enjoy. If you can deal with that, this should be in your collection. And do you know why? Because it's also cheap. Because it's a deck of cards, a piece of paper, and a pencil to score some stuff, and a couple of tiles. A tenner, 15 quid, something like that.
Yeah.
You will. This is good. This is good. San Juan.
My 22 is the second in the Century trilogy. This is Century Eastern Wonders. Now, yes, Rick, not so much of a fan of this one as Spice Road. For a while, this overtook Spice Road for me. Spoiler, Spice Road's higher. Because of a couple of things. It really ignited an interest in pick up and deliver for me, which I hadn't really come across. It made me interested in modular boards, which I hadn't really come across.
It don't do that well.
it has wavy hexes instead of boring hexes, which they're not the weird things from Inish, but there's something else. There's something more interesting, and it's set in the ocean with islands. So it was like, oh, a thematic visual choice. That's nice. I like the abstract nature of cubes. You'll have noticed from all that we've said so far, Rick has a greater degree of precision about theme than I do. I like the mechanisms all to work really well, and this is small and it works and it's super simple, and the production is great. It's got the little bowls, it's got all of that stuff. The pieces, the boats and whatnot are good. They're your upgrades that you can get. What order do you get them in? Do you get them all that kind of stuff? Really good. And then I should have said the next 4 have caveats, because this has a caveat. That is great, but on its own, even from you listening to this, it shouldn't be higher than the 2 I've just spoken about with such excitement. Except I do own the whole trilogy.
Yeah.
And I do have access to the combination games. And my favorite combination is 1 and 2 together, which does the kind of pick up and deliver of Eastern Wonders, but instead of being action point driven, it's now card driven by the Century Spice Road cards, and you can gain cards and do the trades on the card or use them as movement points and all this stuff. And so it just makes the game a little quieter, a little longer, a little deeper, and it's just a gloriously satisfying experience. And so because it's so tried and tested, my group prefers this one over Spice Road, so this one comes out much more. It just holds on to its place for a number of reasons, and it will be a little while before it goes, but I really like it more than most people, it seems. It's Century Eastern Wonders.
But let me take up the energy for our final one of this thing, because this is a game that you and I both really, really like. This is a former number 1 for me. It is our most expanded game, and I can't believe it's down this low, but we just possibly played it to death. Small World.
Oh.
You like this game?
I love this game. What's it doing in the 20s?
Only just. Anyway, Small World. It's so good. It really, actually, on paper shouldn't work for me, because it's smashing up different races and fantasy ones. You've got skeletons and elves and dwarves and stuff I don't care about. But the art is cartoony and hilarious. And when you become a dragon master, it has a picture of a dragon with a man floating in front of him, because that's the character you're using to control the dragon. That's cute and hilarious. If you look in the rule book, the halflings, one of them's in a rubber dinghy. It's got a tattoo saying Gandalf in it. I'm sure the reason it's in the rule book and not on the actual board is probably because there's a TM infringement there. But it is funny and it is fun, and it's really simple to teach and really simple to learn. You attack with 2 pieces of cardboard. That's the 2 tokens you have, plus however much cardboard is there, whether that's a mountain or another race. And you go and attack loads of people, and you think, well, that's really fun. And then they come and attack you. And that's basically the whole game, until you say, but every single race and every single special power, I'll come back to the special powers in a minute, does something different and breaks that rule somehow. You score double points here. You need fewer tokens there. When you attack, I've gone out of focus. I've been too excited. Bear with me. Am I back? Yeah. Good. It's too much fun. It just has different rules for each one. And even the titles are hilarious, because all of the special powers are adjectives. And I'm going to be a linguist nerd right now, but they're all adjectives.
No, they're present continuous verbs, aren't they? Bivouacking.
Yeah, that bivouacking is, yeah.
That's not an adjective.
Where isn't, though.
Oh, true.
Yeah. you've put me off now. But it's a describing word, and it's a proper noun. So you've got bivouacking Amazons, or you've got merchant trolls, and just diplomatic wizards.
Rat men.
Rat men. Pixies who have no special power except there's flipping loads of them. They spread all over the board and then they quickly disappear. And they're thematic and they work with what they're supposed to be. And I just don't know how they managed to make something so simple, so thematic, so playable, so fun. Brilliant. I hate Risk. I always hated Risk, actually.
Yeah.
It's not like, Monopoly we played a lot of, and now I'm a bit like, oh, do you know what? There's lots of things I like better than Monopoly. I never, ever enjoyed Risk. I never thought I'd be a war gamer. I never thought I'd be an area control kind of person. I'm still not really. Small World, though, bingo, bango, what a game. Here's the other thing. 2-player, 3-player, 4-player, 5-player. What does it play best at? Let me tell you. 2-player, 3-player, 4-player, or 5-player. They have separate boards for each one, keeping it tight, making it just as much a small world. And it always remains combative. There's a couple of special powers you want to take out if you're doing 2-player, like diplomatic, because otherwise you end up in a stalemate, and that's boring. So maybe a couple of house rules. But you know what? I have a stack of describing words and a stack of characters, and the exponential possibilities of all the different races. I teach so many people this, and they go, oh, I'm going to go and buy that game. And then they come back and they say, oh, I played it. And I go, okay, what race did you play? Oh, we had the Dragon Master Fawns. Oh, that's a tough race. Oh, yeah, I can see how that would work together. Oh, Small World 21. Can't believe it's that low, but it is very, very good.
My number 21 is the ugliest game you've ever seen in your life.
Castles of Burgundy.
Castles of Burgundy. This is an exceptional game that is some of the best value for money you'll ever get, because it's dirt cheap and it's butt ugly.
Because it's dirt.
It's not. The action selection system is incredible design. The way everything intertwines is incredible design. It is hideous. I will not stop saying how bad this game looks. And they did a new edition, which looks the same but garish.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? I was like, okay, cool. I'd like to say,
No.
Turns out you can't polish her.
Just glitter. Oh, man. You roll some dice. Everybody rolls at the same time, and you use those numbers to do very simple things. Either use that number to claim a tile from that numbered region from the central board into your area, or use it to build that tile from your planning area into your plot, I don't know, theme. And it's
your Burgundy.
Into my Burgundy. But each location on the Burgundy has a number, and so you have to use that number to build it in, or you use it to ship goods of that number to get silver, to be able to have special effects, to be able to get an extra turn, to be able to do all this stuff. And no matter what tile you put into your Burgundy, I'm just using that now, it will trigger a special effect, either getting more goods in, or getting another turn, or scoring points at the end of the game, or immediately getting you something else, or getting you workers, and workers allow you to mitigate the dice. Everything is thought of. Everything is thought of. It is so delicately not finessely, that's not a word. Whatever the word is.
It's a describing word.
It's one of they. Beautifully done. There is nothing wrong with the gameplay. Nothing. I will fight you, and I will lose, but I will fight you. I will take this to anybody, and it's £20 for the top. It's in the top 20 according to everybody that plays games on Board Game Geek. I'm talking about as a database. It's in the top games ever, and it's only £20, and it will give you a deep, thinky, beautiful puzzle. The only thing wrong with it is it looks like arse, and do not play it at 4-player. Do not play it at 4-player. You will hate everybody at the table.
2 or 3.
2 or 3. Oh, 2 preferably. 3, okay. Great. 4, too long. Way too long.
Okay.
That's it. We've had such a range of games. A couple of surprises for you. Well, for you, not from you. You disagree with my choices. That's okay. We can disagree, and that's all right. But we're down to the top 20. Just the top 20. The excitement levels only go up from here, folks, even when I kill it with Century Eastern Wonders. We will build that bubble and we will get it bigger. Oh wow, I'm looking forward to it. I always want to have a little chat at the end, but I just want to end this now as quickly as possible so that I'm left wanting more. Hopefully anybody watching is going, great, let's get to the next one because you guys seem excited. So let's do that. That's it. To see the videos as they come out, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you get notifications, all that stuff. You want to find out what we do other than these videos, just search me Winsome on social media, searching Winsome Loosemore on the usual platforms and subscribing, following, all that stuff. Do the usual things. We'll see you again. I've been Dieter. He's been Rick. We'll see you again. Bye.